Welcome to a new episode of our podcast dedicated to regulatory affairs and life science. In today's episode, we will talk of EUDAMED and recap the information to be borne in mind for UDI registrations. As of 28th of May 2026, the use of EUDAMED modules, UDI device and notified bodies and certificate has become mandatory. The operators of the medical device sector are now called upon to make significant organizational efforts, especially manufacturers with a very large device portfolio or those that have not approached voluntary EUDAMED registration so far. Thankfully, Regulation EU 2017-745, the so-called MDR, provides for transition periods also for the obligation on the registration of devices. These transition periods are not to be confused with those regarding the marketing of the so-called legacy devices, regulated by Article 120 of the MDR. It is better to have a regulatory knowledge of these aspects as well as to be familiar with the actual registration operative modes, in order to adequately approach EUDAMED registration of UDIs and devices. To understand the timeline available for the registration of UDIs and devices into EUDAMED, even in the case of legacy devices, different cases must be considered. The first case is that of medical devices complying with the MDR. As of 28 May 2026 onwards, it is mandatory to register MDs into EUDAMED according to Article 29 of the MDR. The registration is to be made before placing the medical device on the market. Another case is that of the devices complying with the MDR already placed on the market at 28 May of 2026. 6 additional months are provided for the transition for these devices. Therefore, the MDs shall be registered into EUDAMED within the 28th of November 2028. The obligation applies in case the concerned devices are being placed on the market also after the 28th of May 2026. The last case is that of the devices complying with the Medical Device Directive placed on the market according to Article 120 of the MDR. 6 additional months are provided for the transition for these devices as well, so the MDs should be registered within the 28th of November 2028. The obligation applies in case these devices are being placed on the market also after the 28th of May 2026. In case the concerned MDs have already been recertified according to the MDR and regularly registered into EUDAMED, the registration is not to be considered as mandatory. Beware, however, in case it is needed to report vigilance actions on a device, this must be registered into EUDAMED. For instance, in the case of safety corrective actions, reports of serious incidents, and other. The above applies also to legacy MDs or complying with the MDR that are not directly affected by the EUDAMED registration obligations, such as medical devices no more placed on the market after the 28th of May 2026. Let's see then how to register UDIs and devices into EUDAMED. To register UDIs and devices, first of all, the relevant manufacturer or European authorized representative, if any, needs to be already registered into EUDAMED. These two types of operators are in fact those that can be authorized to the UDI registration. Once the access to the UDI and device module has been obtained, it should be first proceeded with the registration of the Basic UDI-DI that, to put it very simply, identifies a group of devices with common design and manufacturing characteristics. The system will then allow the association of the first UDI-DI and the various fields to be populated with the information annexed to the device. The registration consists of six steps: Basic UDI-DI information, certificate information, UDI-DI identification information, UDI-DI characteristics, device information, container package details. At the end, it will be possible to continue with the upload of other separate basic UDI-DIs or to continue to associate other UDI-DIs to the basic one already registered. Since direct data input via the user interface could be time-consuming, EUDAMED has made available other methods allowing bulk data input: the XML download and upload, and the machine-to-machine transfers. The XML download and upload is a semi-automated option based on the use of XML files. The data in XML format need to be validated in compliance with the EUDAMED data exchange services and with the XSD scheme in force. XML files require a manual upload by users. EUDAMED suggests its use in case of uploads ranging between 100 to 1000 devices at a time. However, the approach to XML upload into EUDAMED could require an actual troubleshooting by expert programmers unless one chooses to rely on dedicated software by third parties. On the other hand, the machine-to-machine data exchange system allows the automatic data exchange between an outer backhand and a EUDAMED backhand, still using an XML architecture that is compliant as far as format and validation are concerned. Users all include data in the outer system that in turn transfers them to EUDAMED. The use of this option requires a dedicated infrastructure that might be burdensome under various aspects, to be considered in case of a very high data flow above 1000 devices at a time. EUDAMED allows to update the data associated with the UDI device registrations, though not all of them. Upon completion of the changes, the system will create a new version of the notification. The updates can be made also in bulk, as described above. Manufacturers cannot choose. They are bound to comply with a specific regulatory obligation specifically regulated by Article 29 of the MDR. In order to allow operators to perform registration tests, the Commission made available EUDAMED Play. This is not a sandbox, as the functions are actually symmetrical to those in EUDAMED production. It is however possible to include fictitious device and UDI data associated with test actors. Beware, the system will inform you in case the UDIs uploaded are not compliant with rules of the issuing body, and EUDAMED Play also includes an open section where it is possible to consult registrations of operators, devices and certificates. The Renzo Regulatory Affairs is available with their expertise and experience to support companies in the EUDAMED registrations, simplifying the operative management and ensuring a compliant and efficient approach to the MDR requirements. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you want to listen to other podcasts, sign up for our channel, follow up on the social media and join us for next episode.